of C.A., ladies and gentlemen, Adam Hollioake.
That man, Adam Hollioake.
Hey guys, I'm Si. Welcome to Ace Podcast Nation, and this is the home of our exclusive series, My Story. The show is available in video format at youtube.com/Ace Podcast Nation, plus audio versions at all your usual podcast, radio app platforms and links. All the links for everything is in the description. Appreciate it if you could subscribe to the YouTube channel, and you can keep up to date with all the shows and series that we've got coming up on Ace Podcast Nation. We do everything from MMA, football, cricket, mental health, everything live, recorded shows, top guests and expert analysts from a wide variety of subjects. So check us out, and as I say, all the links are in the description below. My Story is one of our newer series. It's basically, the concept is simple. We take our guests through their life, their careers, from their upbringing up to present day, as they share some memories and anecdotes. Previous episodes includes former WBO champion Robbie Regan, the actor and writer who played Lofty in EastEnders, Mr. Tom Watt, former Welsh international footballers Rhys West and Scott Young, and of course we had former England cricketer Chris Lewis join us as well. My guest today, for a deep dive into his incredible life and career, is he has competed professionally in 3 different sports: boxing, MMA, and of course the one he's most well known for, I guess, is cricket. Former England captain, a Surrey Cricket Club legend, and in my opinion a true innovator of one-day cricket in England. I'm delighted to welcome a true sporting icon, Mr. Adam Hollioake. How are you, my friend?
Hey, good, thanks guys. Hope you're all well over there in England.
Well, I'm in Wales, I am. Oof. Oof. Don't say that. But no, it's all right. It's I'm guessing, looking out my window, that the weather is probably better where you are than where we are at the moment. It is raining heavily, shall we say.
Yeah, well, middle of winter here in the Gold Coast, where I am. It's beautiful, 25 degrees and sunny and clear. Well, not now, the sun's just gone down, but
yeah,
good day.
Jealous. So what I like to do before we get into kind of your story is just for people maybe who are not familiar with you, if they're not cricket fans or they're maybe younger viewers who missed your career, is basically we do 7 quickfire questions. We call it the Magnificent 7, and all you do is just say the first thing which comes to mind. Okay. Magnificent 7 with Adam Hollioake. So, sporting hero growing up?
Viv Richards.
Glamorgan legend.
Yeah.
Ronaldo or Messi?
Messi.
Oasis or the Beatles?
The Beatles.
The best captain you ever played under?
Keith Medlicott.
Angriest teammate ever?
Mark Ramprakash.
Flintoff, Stokes or Botham?
Oh yeah. Stokes. The other 2 are getting old now.
And the greatest TV show of all time?
Wow, that's a hard one at the end. Superstars.
Okay. So I didn't even know what that is. What's Superstars?
Come on, mate. That's iconic, old school 70s and 80s. One of the original reality TV shows. They took an athlete from every sport and competed them in a bunch of generic events. So like, they take footballer, cricketer, tennis player, and they'd all do like things like sprint race.
I might have to have a look for that. That sounds better than the reality TV shows which are on now. So might have to check that one out. So look, you got an incredible story, inspirational story, full of ups and downs. But what I like to do with my guests, first and foremost, is for you to take us back to the start. Tell us a bit about your upbringing, where you were born, basically where did it all start for Adam Hollioake?
So I was born in Melbourne in Australia, but probably spent the majority of my youth and primary years in Ballarat, which is a mining town, a couple of hours outside of Melbourne. So that was sort of country Victoria, but during that time period, my parents travelled a lot with my dad's work. My dad was an engineer, so that took us around a number of places. But then when I was 12, his work relocated him to England.
Okay.
And I ended up going to a school over there called St George's in Weybridge in Surrey.
Yeah.
And while I was there, I just I did a whole bunch of. I did every sport, like all of us guys do at school. We just did everything: rugby, hockey, cricket, athletics. So yeah, that was my sort of introduction to England.
So a lot of athletes and former athletes and stuff, which I speak to, they're quite often good at several sports in their youth, and they get to a point where they've got to make a decision which one they're going to pursue. Was that the same for you, or was it kind of always cricket that you shined at?
Well, there wasn't a decision to make really, because rugby, which was my other sport. I mean, my two main sports were definitely rugby and cricket, but I also did quite a bit of boxing as well. But that was not on the school curriculum or sporting agenda, so I did that in my own time. My parents told me to promise them that I'd never fight professionally, which I kept that for about 25 years, I think. Then I broke that promise. But mainly rugby and cricket. So I had the choice when I got offered to play cricket, was either go to university and play rugby and wait for it to turn professional, or take the contract which was there in front of me for cricket. So I hated study that much that I decided that the sport was irrelevant, and anything that was going to get me out of studying was the way forward.
Cool. So when I announced that you were coming on, I had an influx of texts from friends of mine, really, who follow cricket and sport, and they all asked pretty much the same thing, which was, why in cricket in particular, but also other sports more and more these days, do you see so many athletes sort of born in one place but then go on to represent another country? So like yourself was born in Australia, you went on to play for England. Kevin Peterson, born in South Africa, went on to play for England, and the list is endless. I mean, Andrew Strauss and many others. Do you think? Well, I guess the question, if they're asking, is why do you think that is?
I guess if I was one of your viewers, I'd be asking the same one, because I've got no idea really. There's no real. I've tried to think about this before, and I thought, is it because cricketers in other countries are so much better than England? I thought, of course not. We're all the same. You know what I mean? I just think that it's just the way it is. I mean, whether the children that make the step have developed some resilience or something because they've been brought up in two different areas and they've got to have some kind of way of coping with the attention of coming from another place. I don't know, because there is really, there's no scientific answer that I could give that. Different for, in Kevin's instance, guys who come there when they're already at a decent standard of cricket. Some might choose to go to another country because the opportunities are better there. I mean, mine was different. I came over at the age of 12, and I know there's a number of guys who have done that, who've come over early in age. I mean, to the age of 12, I couldn't possibly have known I was going to
No, of course,
playing international cricket. So, but Kevin might have. I mean, he might have chosen that because of the limited opportunities in South Africa. As with, Graham Hick, Robin Smith, Alan Lamb, that might have been something like that as well. But I mean, I know you had Chris Lewis on there, and he just so happened to be from another country, didn't come over to cricketing career. Ben Stokes, I don't believe, has done that. I think he came over relatively young as well.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So I think you just have to take each case on its own. It's not. I don't think there'd be one answer that would be able to blanket
No,
and
of
cover
course.
all of those different. Andrew Strauss, I know he was originally South African, but he came over to young. He did his secondary schooling in England. So, and I think you just got to be careful to differentiate between people who have come over to further their career and ones who are already at school and it just so happen to be in the country when given that opportunity.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as well, I think moving to a different country as a child, I would imagine you have to have a certain amount of mental resilience, which obviously you need in professional sport and to be a professional athlete. So, I mean, whether that makes a difference from a psychological point of view, just that kids who've had to come over from another country, go to a school from another country and stuff, and like you say, like, 11, 12, of that sort of age, it's a difficult enough age as it is.
Yeah.
So I mean, maybe there's some aspect to it, but like you say, you'd have to take every case on its merit. And I mean, you've seen it more and more in all sports now. Like they're constantly changing the kind of rules with what makes you able to qualify to play international sport. I think over the last few years as well, we've seen athletes who've played for two different countries because they've played sort of up to a under 21 level, say for like football, rugby, and then they change. But
and the other thing you consider with England is England went around conquering the world, through the Middle Ages. So you've got ancestry. Like I was at training today with Queensland. I coach the Queensland cricket team now, and one of the kids goes, my grandfather's from England. I can get an English passport. Would I have an opportunity to go over in England? And I was like, absolutely. And then before I could finish that conversation, there were three other guys who were in the same scenario. So, whereas I can't imagine that scenario happens in England, where you've got English guys who've got Australian parentage. It's, it's the other way around. And same in other countries. England was one of those countries that they went, and I'm not sure my history, again, why I chose cricket rather than going to university was I think England went around conquering half the world back in the Middle Ages. So, there's people all around the world with rights and ancestry to come back to England. So I think Australia's only been around 200 years, so I don't think they've conquered too much.
Yeah. So do you think, like, I'm assuming you view yourself as Australian, I would imagine. Is that true?
No, I don't. I view myself as nothing really. I wish I was one or the other.
Yeah.
I see people and they're so patriotic about it, whether that be England or Australia. I look at someone like Andrew Flintoff or Ian Botham or Michael Atherton, and they're so patriotic to be English. They've got English parents, English grandparents, probably their great grandparents are English, and they come through and they're singing the God Save the Queen and with their Union Jack tattoos and everything like that, and it's a beautiful thing. It's like there's nothing better. But in this day and age, I think we're just going to see more people who have different part, a great grandfather from here or an uncle and auntie from there, and it's not as easy as I think it was 50 years ago. Travel's easier, and I wish I was from one or the other, so I could really feel patriotic. Something I feel like it's a gift that if you're fortunate enough to do that, then it's a beautiful thing. I felt that for Surrey because I grew up in Surrey, played for Surrey. I always felt a Surrey player, so I felt that love of that club. Whereas I'd be lying if I said I felt that when I played for England. I didn't feel that totally. I never felt, saying that, I wouldn't have felt the same if I played for Australia either. So it's that doesn't mean I didn't try my hardest every time I went out there. Like, if you want to play me in a game of table tennis, I'll try my hardest. It's like that's irrelevant. But I would be lying if I said I felt incredibly patriotic when I was playing for England. I could see the other guys in the side were that, but you know what, singing the national anthem really loud or having Union Jack tattoos on you doesn't make you a better cricketer or rugby player or whatever. It's just being good at the sport, really.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting, like you say about tattoos. I know Kevin Peterson's got like the three lions tattooed on his, I think it's his arm, but obviously he was born, I think, in South Africa, which is it's interesting. Like he obviously felt an affinity
Maybe,
for.
maybe he's got a springbok tattooed on his ass.
You never know. You never
Yeah.
know. But I mean, one of my next questions was, like, would you have found, or did you find it difficult playing against Australia when you were playing for England? But I guess because you didn't have that affinity to kind of either, in terms of how you felt.
I actually felt, if you ever look at my record, it's I had a better record against Australia than I did the other sides, because for me it was more, I wanted to beat them more, because you know, I was always called names by the Australians.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. Did you get a lot of grief?
Yeah, absolutely, and I loved it too. It was like, it's just I don't know, they've got a thing out here in Australia just to sort of maybe help. Because we don't really have anything like that in England, but they've got something out here called the State of Origin, which is a rugby league between New South Wales and Queensland, who are the two main rugby playing states. And under their normal club, those guys are in the same team. But when they go to play for their states, they're in opposite sides. So it's basically mates playing as mates.
Yeah.
Those games are more brutal than international games. The passion with which those games are played under is more than any other sport I've ever seen, because it's like literally they want to win more because that's their mates that they're playing against. So when I played against Australia, I wanted to win more because that's where I grew up. Those guys were calling me all their names, Judas, Trader, Turncoat, and I was like, well, I'll show you. So I love playing against Australia. I love competing against Australia. Hey, I'm not saying I always won or whatever, but I enjoyed playing against Australia more. I felt it was felt more at stake, and I wanted to win more if that's possible, because when you're playing at that level, you want to win really badly already.
Yeah, of course. It's weird for me because I'm Welsh, but obviously in cricketing terms, there's a Welsh team, you know, up until I think about under-16s. And then after that, it goes into because it's the England and Wales Cricket Board, it goes into that. So in every other sport, I've got a real kind of, I wouldn't say like a hatred, I've got a dislike of the English national teams. Nature. Yeah, because it's like Wales versus England. It's like big competitive rivalry. Whereas, like, I played county cricket as a kid to, like, I think probably about 16, but I was more interested in girls and doing other stuff, so I didn't have the dedication to take it further. Whereas if I had, I think, if I had ever been good enough to play international cricket, I would have wanted to play for England. But it's Welsh, so it's a real weird thing, and I don't know, it's strange to think about. But I
think it's easy. I mean, the abuse that I've taken over the years,
I can only imagine.
And no, it's fine. It goes with the territory. I'm not complaining about it. I know as soon as you sign up to do professional sport, they're the cards you dealt. If you don't want to do it, then go and get an office job. Do you know what I mean? So it's fine. I'm definitely not complaining about it. But yeah, the abuse I've taken over the years is fair and unfair at the same time. The fair bit is, hey, I'm playing for the opposition and they're going to try and do whatever they can to unsettle me. That's fair. Unfair bit is suggesting that I came to England because I wasn't good enough to get in the Australian side. That might have been true, but that wasn't the reason I came to England. I came to England when I was 12 because my dad got a job there, and I defy any 12-year-old to say, you know what, Mum and Dad, I'm just going to stay here and make it on my own. So it was like, that was never our intention. It ended up being that way. And I know that the cards that got dealt me, and I've got to deal with it. Like, I always get called, I just went to England because it was easier to get into their team. It's like, well, that's nonsense.
Not thinking about that as a kid, are you?
No, not thinking about it.
how did your parents feel about you playing for England over Australia? Were they just proud that you played, international cricket as opposed to you were playing for England over Australia?
Um, I think so. I think they were just proud. It was. I think. I mean, I've got 3 kids myself, and you just want to see them reach the top of their profession. Really, it's only sport where, I guess if you're a lawyer or you work for a solar company. If you're a lawyer, the best you can do is make partner or set up your own legal firm. If you own your own company, the best thing you can do is own it or become CEO. So I guess when you're a sportsman, the best thing you can do is represent your country. So I guess it's like a promotion or playing international cricket. It's the highest level of cricket you can play. So my parents, it was weird. I asked them what happened. Hey, who are you supporting when I'm playing against Australia? He said, well, my dad was like, we're supporting Australia, but we hope you do well. So I said, so you hope all my mates do bad? They're like, yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
But see, obviously you played for Surrey, and you had an incredible career for Surrey. You had an incredible career, but Surrey in particular, you were just ridiculous. You played, I think, 159 first-class matches for Surrey, just under 9,000 runs at an average of 40 odd, 18 centuries, 53 50s. That is some career and some statistics. What sticks out to you the most when you look back at your time at Surrey?
The thing that sticks out to me the most is my love of that club and the way that club's treated me. I've been through a lot in my life. I mean, my brother and I were both fortunate enough to play there. When he passed away, they were more than my employer. They were like my extended family. So the thing that sticks out is the mutual respect between the club and my family, and vice versa. And then I grew up. Those guys were my friends. I grew up with them from the age of 12. So those guys who we went on to win championships with, and we won 9 trophies in 7 years. But they were all my friends. They're almost like my brothers. You know what I mean? So I think it's just realizing we were involved in a special period of time and just enjoying it and enjoying one another's company, enjoying one another's success, and being there for one another during their failures. And I think it's a special thing. To be a professional cricketer in itself is special, but when you get to do it with your mates and with people that go on to become your very closest friends and then achieve success as well, that's something which I'll remember forever.
Yeah, I guess it's like a lifelong bond, isn't it? Because, like you mentioned, you mentioned your brother Ben obviously passed away in 2002, I believe, wasn't it? I'd done a few. We got a series called Mental Health in Sport where we've spoken to different athletes and psychologists and stuff, and a lot of the time we talk about the support in place for young players or players who retire early through injury and stuff like that. And do the authorities, do the clubs, do the national teams do enough to support players in those situations? So I wanted to ask you, when Ben tragically passed away, did you feel like you had good support from, from Surrey, from the E.C.E. in that time?
From Surrey, I couldn't have. It's all relative to the times that we live in. Today, I've been involved in. I've been surrounded with another tragedy out here, which will probably come out in the next few days. But
Okay.
it's just reminded me of that period of time, and it's Surrey couldn't have done any more than they did for me. It reminded me of a period of time in 92, 93, I think it was 91, 92, around then. I was living in an apartment with Joey Benjamin and a guy called Danny Callagher. Danny Callagher played a handful of first-class games for Kent and then came to play for Surrey. He was injured and his career was ending. He just split up with his girlfriend, and I was sharing an apartment with him, and he spent every day laying on the sofa, watching movies, and then of an evening staying up till 2 or 3 in the morning and sleeping all day. And they were talking about 92, 93. Now, to you and I now, that's obvious that he was suffering from depression.
Yeah.
But back then, this is how far we've come in the last 30 years. Back then, I remember thinking, what's wrong with this guy? He needs to get up and have a crack. He needs to get up and get into it. Mm. He wasn't able to do that. And I remember just calling him weak, and just purely through my own lack of knowledge. I was a 19, 20-year-old guy. I didn't know anything about depression or mental health. None of us did, really. No. Unfortunately, he went on to commit suicide afterwards, and but back then it was like, oh, he committed suicide. It was a weak act, and we didn't even stop to think there's anything that we could have done to intervene or to have changed the path of what happened. Now, knowledge is so much better. Mental health awareness is vastly different. I guess it's something like what smoking would have been like in the 60s and 70s and 80s, when everyone was just puffing away willy-nilly and no one had knew it was doing any damage. So it's the same thing. So mental health is sort of very much at the forefront of what people do. I mean, I don't know, like Surrey were amazing when my brother died in 2002. Bearing in mind that's only 10 years after Danny Callagher committed suicide. Yeah. I'm not sure if they were aware of mental health and that. I can't remember around that time. I still think depression was not really spoken about as openly as it is now. But I think mainly because my family were so respected and revered at the club that I was granted as much time to recover, and I was supported by the club. I'm not sure that would have been the same if it had been someone else. I don't know. I couldn't answer that. But all I know is that they supported me magnificently, and for that, I'm like really grateful. My family is as well.
Yeah, you're right. Like the understanding of mental health, depression, and things like this is changed vastly over the last, the last 10 years. I'd say has really seen a change in people's attitudes and the way people understand it. But I think you're right. Back in 2002, whilst it was probably it would have been a lot better than it was in '93. I don't think it was anywhere near what it is now.
No.
What was it like coming up through the ranks with your brother Ben? Because obviously, I'd imagine making your way as a professional sportsman is is an exciting time as you're working your way up through to the first team. What was it like to be able to do that alongside your brother?
It was an interesting time. I mean, he was. I think some people forget is he was 6 years younger than me. So, okay. I think because he was so talented that people just tended to forget that he was that young. I think he made his Surrey debut when he was 17 or 18. Really young. International debut when he was 18. So he was a really young guy, and so I was almost, I was going to say I am his older brother, but I was like helped him through those times, and I was already established when he came into the Surrey side, and I'd already played a handful of one-day internationals before he made his debut. So I was always able to kind of pass on knowledge to him and help him at whatever stage he was at coming through. So it was a special time. I think any family that had one kid playing professional sport would feel blessed, and there was both of us, and we're both in the same sport and the same club, and we were fulfilling similar roles. I'd bat 6, he'd bat 7. I'd bowl, and we both bowl at the end, so we're often working in partnerships together.
Yeah.
So it was a special, and we lived together, so pretty much did everything together. We partied together. It was so pretty special times, really.
Were you quite protective of him as kids and like when you were growing up?
Yes, I remember one instance. We were in Hong Kong, and I would have been, I don't know, 10 or 11 or something like that, and he would have been 5. I think some kids took his ball. I don't think they were taking it maliciously, but I wanted to get his ball back, so I ended up fighting them all. So, but that sort of carried on throughout our life. Once we became professional cricketers, obviously I couldn't be seen to be too protective because he was his own man. So
yeah, of course.
It's almost like by overly standing up for your younger brother, you're almost not allowing him. You're not allowing him to fight his own battles either. So, and then that's just going to bring more attention to that person. So
yeah, you made your Test debuts together, which I think it was the first time it had been done in the 20th century from an English point of view. That must have been a proud moment to be able to not only have your Test match debut, but alongside your brother as well. But the other part that I wanted to say, was that obviously in those days, one-day cricket was viewed completely different to what it is now in England, whereby you kind of worked your way. You were in the one-day side first, and that was like a stepping stone to the Test side. They weren't necessarily viewed as separate formats like they are now.
Yeah.
So what was that like, to make your Test debuts together?
It was, I mean, the gravity of the situation, I think, didn't really, at the time, I don't think we realised what was going on because life was just moving pretty quickly for us both. I mean, he was 18. I was like 23, 20, what was I, 24, 23, 24, something like that. And everything was happening so fast for us. So we were achieving a lot. And, we just won the series 3-0 versus Australia in the one days. I got man of the series. He got the man of the match in the third one day international. And, we were getting sponsorships thrown our way and cars and we were on TV shows. And so everything was happening so fast. So at that time, I think it was just like, oh yeah, this is just something else which is happening. So, but when I look back on it now, I think I appreciate it more now when I look back on it than we did at the time. Probably took it a little bit for granted at the time, and even now when people say, well, I think we were the only people to do that in the 20th century, it's like, at the time, I don't think you even comprehend that.
No. Yeah. I think, that's not unusual, is it, for young men? Just generally is sometimes life is moving so quickly that you only appreciate maybe the situations and the things that happen later in life. Look, I was wondering if you'd mind telling the story of where you went to watch Mike Tyson versus Lennox Lewis in Memphis, which I came across because I just found that really just such a heartwarming story from a terrible situation.
Yeah,
so I'd rather you tell the story than kind of me reel it off from what I saw.
Yeah, it was interesting because it started back in England, and I'd been at the time my then wife. She'd been punishing me by taking me to all these theatres. I think it was the Lion King and goddamn Phantom of the Opera. I was like, it's killing me. So I must have watched 20 of these West End shows, each one worse than the last. And I'm just not into that stuff. Anyway, I was taken along. And one day it was my turn to choose, so I took. I couldn't tell her where I was going to take her because I knew I'd get told no. But I took it to Lennox Lewis versus Francois Botha at over in the Docklands. That fight was. Anyway, she quite enjoyed it, and then my brother as well. He loved it. So I said, wherever we are at that stage, the big fight on everyone's lips was Tyson versus Lewis. Much probably the same as Fury versus Joshua now, but that was the fight that everybody wanted to see. So they announced that fight, and I said, we're going along. We got 4 tickets. So there was one for me, wife, and Ben and his girlfriend, and then obviously things changed.
Yeah.
Obviously my brother had the accident, and the people that ended up coming was my sister. My wife was we had my daughter, so she couldn't travel because she was just newly born. And so it ended up being 4 tickets, which we had originally bought, but for my sister and her boyfriend at the time. And the tickets were ringside, and they were incredibly expensive, but I thought we'll sell the 4th ticket when we get there. But when we got there, I kind of enjoying the situation, and I felt like, my brother was there with me, and we just kept the seat free. I think the seats were worth about $10,000 each, but I just kept it free. People kept coming during the fight asking if they could sit. There was someone there, and I said, "Yeah, someone's there." So we just kept it open, and it was just a nice moment. I also had a lot more money, I must add, back at that stage, so I wouldn't be doing it now. I'd be selling it. But it was just, it was a nice moment to leave it open for him. So
yeah, and I guess because you'd planned to go to the fight together, and I can imagine, like you say, because they're expensive seats and they were sought after seats. I can imagine people just coming up and saying, anyone sitting there constantly. It's just in my head, I could feel like it would be every 10 minutes, just someone else coming along.
Oh, it was more often than that. Yeah.
So kind of going back to cricket and your England career, really. You played more for the one-day side, and you played a handful of tests as well. Looking back on your England career, is there kind of anything which you would have done differently, or anything which sticks out?
Yeah, I probably would have been nicer to Duncan Fletcher, I think. It's we didn't get on. We didn't like each other. So I think I would have got picked for a lot more games if I'd been nicer to him. But I didn't like him. I don't like him. I don't like that guy. He doesn't like me, so I didn't get picked. So I wouldn't change anything. I'm happy with what happened. I was happy with my career, and we still don't like each other, and that's cool. That's the way it is.
Yeah, sometimes you just have a clash of personalities.
Yeah,
it's just one of those things. But really, technically, that clash of personalities shouldn't affect selection. Technically, if you're good enough, you should be playing, regardless of whether you get on with the manager or the coach. But it doesn't work like I do a football show live every Monday with former Middlesbrough and Cardiff striker Andy Campbell, and when he left Cardiff, the main reason was he didn't get on with the manager. But every time he played, he did quite well. So really, from a kind of technical point of view, he should have played. But it's just one of those things. And
I think it depends on your coach. I mean, I know as captain, there was a lot of guys I had in my side who I didn't like, but I just picked the guys who I thought should be in the side, and whether I liked you or didn't like you was irrelevant. But there's other people aren't like that, and I'm not criticizing him. That's just the way he chose to run his team. He was a successful coach. He did wonderful things with England. So, in some ways he was justified, and, by having me there, he might have felt that it might have unsettled the vibe in the changing room, and that's his decision as coach. That's fine. Doesn't mean I like him anymore.
No.
Yeah, it's just that's okay. That's the way it is. That's life. It's like we make our choices. I knew that I could have pretended I liked him and I might have played more games, but that's also not who I am.
Yeah. We mentioned just now about the one-day cricket and England's approach to it changing over the years. Like now, they very much have separated the T20, the 50 over, and the Test sides. You know, back in the day, they used to just pick pretty much the same side for all, maybe with one or two changes for the one-day cricket. I feel like you were almost ahead of your time in terms of particularly one-day cricket. Do you feel like you would have fit better with the modern approach to one-day cricket in the way you played?
Yeah, possibly. But by the same token, it's all relevant. If I'd been around 10, 15 years earlier, I might not have played at all. So I think we were the start of that split in sides, and we only played. They'd go on tour, they'd take one team, and they wouldn't take two teams. So I missed out on a lot of games that I probably would have played. But at least I got some of my career where they did that. But you know, people back in the 80s, if you couldn't play Test cricket, you didn't get a game in the one days. No. So I mean, now it's completely moved again, and you can be just a T20 specialist or a one-day specialist, whatever it is you choose to be, you can be. That's just, I think the whole world is more accepting of everything. So it's cricket skills, mental health, whatever it is, you know, sexuality, whatever it is, the whole world, you know, transgenders, the world's just a more accepting place and understanding place, and there's somewhere for everybody now, whereas, you know, it's hard for us now sitting here in 2020 looking back trying to work out what things were like back then, but just things were just different, and they are what they are.
Yeah, things change, people evolve, and you know, I'm sure in 10, 15 years' time, people will look back again on 2020 and say, "Oh, I can't believe things were different back then." And
exactly, yeah,
it's just humanity evolves, whether it's for the good or the bad. They change and they evolve. So just to kind of finish off, because I don't want to keep you too, as much as I'd like to keep you for a couple of hours, I don't want to take up too much of your time, because I know it's tea time for the Hollioake family. You after your cricket career, you took a stint in, you had a little run in MMA, and I think you had a boxing fight as well, didn't you?
I had several boxing fights.
Okay.
Yeah. I had 5 professional boxing fights, and then a bunch of other celebrity stroke semi-professional bouts. So I've done a fair bit of fighting in my time, and then obviously MMA as well, and some stuff called Combat 8, which is like a mixture between MMA and boxing. So
yeah, I was going to ask you about that actually. It was like some kind of like it's modified rule set of MMA, is it? So there's no knee strikes, I think it was, and a couple of other bits.
Well, so basically, the main rule difference, the gloves were the same size. Main rule difference where you were only allowed to grapple for 30 seconds.
Okay.
So, which was interesting. It was kind of like, I guess it would be like trying to give entertainment to your average fight fan.
Yeah.
Because like
speed things up a bit.
Yeah, well, because a lot of people, one of the criticisms I've heard people level at MMA is that, you know, someone gets someone on the ground, and once they've got them on the ground, they're not going to let them back up. So they can just keep maneuvering and improving their position without actually trying to get a submission or do anything too radical. They just try and maintain position and just stop the striker from, if they eradicate the striker being able to strike, then they're going to win the fight. So in a 3-round fight, you get 2 takedowns. Effectively, you win the fight, as long as you don't get knocked out. So with this Combat 8 rules, it was like after 30 seconds, you were stood back up, which some people said was, okay, then you're taking away the advantage for the wrestler. Well, the rule it was saying is to the wrestler, well, you better get to work when you're on the ground, and you better finish the fight if you get it down there. And it actually made, because all of the fights ended in knockout or submission. So that was the goal, was to make it more entertaining, and I think it was. So.
Cool. There's,
Mm.
you know, look, there's a million things I'd love to talk to you about. I did want to ask you this question to finish then. Do you still get a lifetime supply of Mars bars?
I get asked this all the time. Hey, it was so I think it was 1998. I got given a lifetime supply of Mars bars. Well, told I was entitled to a lifetime supply of Mars bars because I suffered some severe dehydration out in a game in Bangladesh, and it wasn't actually dehydration. I'd lost the sugars and salt from my blood. I'd diluted it by drinking too much water. So in the media, I mentioned that I ate a whole bunch of noodles and some Mars bars. So whoever was in charge of the Mars bars at the time, I think the CEO of Mars Bar, when I landed at the airport, there were 2 promotions girls with Mars Bar t-shirts on, ready to have pictures taken with me, and gave me some Mars bars. I thought, okay, that's nice. And then I got home, and then there was another buzz at my door when I got home, and there was this truck driver who had a trolley load of Mars bars. And I was like, wow. I don't like Mars bars though, so that's like why couldn't it be like I should have said what I did was I went out for a drive in a Bentley or something like that and see if they gave me a lifetime of Bentleys. But you know, hey, Mars bars was like, I was popular with all the people in the office because I gave everyone in the office as many Mars bars as they wanted for a while.
That's cool. That's yeah. Okay, Adam, I appreciate your time so much, and I'd love to get you back on again so we can
sure, we can
stuff. But what is next for Adam Hollioake? What are you up to now?
Well, I've got a number of things I'm doing really. I guess from your perspective, as in I'm coaching. I'm the batting coach for the Queensland Bulls out here.
Yeah.
And I also training some fighters out here as well. I'm involved with the Matrix Boxing Gym out here, and I train some fighters, which I'm really enjoying. And then I've got a couple of businesses. One which you guys should all check out. It's called CoStar. It's an opportunity for sports fans to speak to their favorite sports celebrity, and you can go on and have video conference calls with your favorite athletes. We've just signed the NBA, so that's just huge for us, and we're hopefully about to sign the PCA, the Professional Cricket Association, so you'll be able to go and have conversations with your favorite, and we've signed the UFC as well. So
wow.
So we can speak to your favorite UFC fighter or NBA player, and soon some cricketers. So
that's amazing.
So and that's been something I've been working on for about 6 or 7 years. But that's really because of Corona, that's come to the forefront because there's a lot of athletes sit around doing nothing, mate. So
yeah, that's it. No.
We're looking for something to do. I mean, I'm obviously getting paid an absolute fortune to come on your show. So
yeah, well, that's it.
The other athletes the same way. They're just after the millions as well.
That's it. That's it. You'd be surprised though how many people ask for money to appear on podcasts like this. Yeah,
right. So what you're saying is I should we could do the negotiation now, mate.
Yeah.
It's a bit late. I've already done it, but what do you reckon it's been worth?
Oh, this
priceless.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it's been an honour for me, mate, because
you're avoiding skirting around the question. You're trying to which will work by just totally flattering me, saying it's been an honour, but I'm after a dollar figure.
Yeah, it's like I say, it's been an honour, mate. I could talk to you for the next 2 hours, and I would not run out of things to talk about. I'll link all Adam's social media and CoStar and everything in the description below. And Adam, I appreciate your time so much, mate. And
I'll come back another time whenever.
That'd be amazing.
Once you give me that price, mate, I'll be back.
Yeah, we'll sort out that price. But you know what? I was going to ask you on Sunday. We're doing a live show talking about the UFC from Saturday.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask you if you wanted to join us for that, just as one of because they have a couple of guests who help break down the fights and stuff. But obviously, the time that I do it, because it's live, I think it's like 4 a.m. in the morning for you, which is to a Sunday morning, which is a shame because
I'm taking my boys there to going to their first UFC. I'm taking them down the pub, as all good dads do. I'm taking my 14-year-old and 9-year-old down to watch their. They're interested in that, that main event. Usman and Masvidal is going to be a cracker. So they're losing their pub virginity down there, mate. I'm taking them down to watch the big fight. So they'll be looking forward.
Who's
to
going to win that fight then to finish us off?
I think Usman. Usman too strong.
To you?
Yeah. You go Masvidal.
I think. Well, here's my thing. I think if he had a full camp, I think I would go with Masvidal. But on 7 days' notice, I'm just not sure that. If
he wins,
what a comeback from injury that is.
Unbelievable. Yeah. So I don't know. That's what makes it so interesting. I think it's
exciting.
He's a tough guy.
I can't wait. Oh, Adam's gone. He's gone.
Sorry, mate. We just had a phone call.
I know you're right.
I'm back.
Just wrapping up anyway now.
Yeah.
Guys, check out Adam's social media and co-star as well. Subscribe, youtube.com/Ace Podcast Nation. Follow us on social media, and we'll be back for new episodes. We do drop at least 3 episodes a week, live or recorded. We've got a live football show Monday with Emil Heskey, former England and Liverpool striker, as well as many other top shows, top guests, and interesting, thought-provoking conversation. So join us for the next episode of My Story. Join us for the next episode on Ace Podcast Nation. Adam, thank you. It's been a pleasure, my friend.
Cheers, guys.
First ball!